Su Yu did not have any sense of accomplishment, and took out his opponent's student number plate expression sly. He got some additional martial arts energy, and the silver-gray number plate showed a hint of white-silver color. After a few rounds. Sun Fei, against Su Yu. I admit defeat. Sun Fei bit her lip slightly, painfully watching her student number plate lose a quarter of its martial arts energy. She was only a level 2 lower tier. To pass the assessment would not be difficult, but to meet Su Yu was her bad luck. Even the level 2 top tier was defeated with one trick. Why would she bring hardship to herself? It would be better to save her energy for the future fights. Next up were Su Yu's fights. I admit defeat. I'm not fighting, defeat admitted. I want to try. Continuous Jade Leaf Kick. Su Yu had achieved 4 consecutive wins. He was one fight away from passing the assessment. The judge said with a hint of smile, Su Yu, against Li Minghai. Whoa, these two fierce gods are finally meeting. Su Yu and Li Minghai were the two strongest people on their team, both with 4 consecutive wins and no losses. One was an old student with a reputation outside of the institute, ranked in the top 30 among the silvers. Another was a rising star, defeating his opponents with one basic leg technique. Unknowingly, Su Yu had gained some fame. Information about him spread like wildfire. What? The Su Yu who kneeled on the floor and begged for Zhang Xueqing's heart, but failed and then jumped into the river. Are you sure it's him? That's impossible. I heard Su Yu is only level 1, how could he be so powerful? Whoa, just 2 months and he changed so much. Not sure what that Zhang Xueqing will think when she sees him. Upon the judge's announcement, the two of them jumped onto the arena. Li Minghai stood with his hands folded, a vicious smile playing on his lips as he said, "You are not bad, but too bad you are up against me. You received quite a bit of martial arts energy just now, you need to give me a chance." Su Yu coolly glanced at his opponent's student number plate. It was still silver white, and although not a dazzling silver white, he was much more powerful than Su Yu. If he could get his opponent's martial arts energy, his student number plate would undergo big changes. Wouldn't we know once we fight? Su Yu gave it a thought and decided that against him, it would best to leave some energy in reserve. He would counter with basic leg techniques, to avoid slipping up and being recognized. Li Minghai laughed coldly, "Do you think that I am the same as you and can only train in the lower class techniques?" He was Li Minghao's brother and the attendant for the young princess of Shanyu. How could his martial arts skills be bad? Tiger fists. Li Minghai shouted deeply, his fists pushed forward as he reversed for power and pounced high in the air, like a tiger. Be it his stance, or his fist skills, they were fierce and majestic. Su Yu felt as though a black shadow was pressing on him, making it hard to breathe. In the Twilight Mountains, Li Minghai had been badly injured and had just woken up. His rushed display of tiger fists was not even half as powerful as then. If it were Li Minghai at his peak, Su Yu might not have been able to escape that day. However, Su Yu was not the same as that day. In the 8 days since, his power had made great improvements. Continuous Jade Leaf Kick. Su Yu remained fearless. With his left leg standing steadily on the ground, Su Yu raised his right leg, bent his knee, and suddenly kicked it out. Under the strong explosive force, his right leg brought about a patch of black shadow in the air. With the loud sound of wind, his right leg landed a precise kick on Li Minghai's jaw. Li Minghai was unlike the rest. His tiger fists retracted and blocked the front of his jaws. Bang! The pouncing tiger pose acted as a slight obstacle. Taking the chance, Li Minghai returned to stand on the ground, his face slightly changed. In his heart, he was shocked. The explosive force was so strong. Without years of training, it would be hard to reach that level. Feeling his slightly aching arms, Li Minghai's eyes grew angrier as he said, "You are looking for death." However, what caused Li Minghai's face to change color again was that his opponent did not rest after the kick. Under the coordinated movement of the ankle and knee joints, Su Yu actually shifted over onto his left leg only. His retracted right leg was like a continuous whip, continuing to kick. Li Minghai was furious, but he could only temporarily use his arms to block. The audience below the stage was in shock. Li Minghai was fought by Su Yu to the point whereby he could not retaliate. Li Minghai had long been established as a silver power. This Su Yu, he is too terrifying. Bang! At the edge of the arena, Su Yu suddenly attacked and kicked Li Minghai off the arena. Ah! Young man, I remember you. Li Minghai felt bitter. The middle-class techniques which he had been training in were defeated by his opponent's basic leg techniques. How is that not embarrassing? Behind him, brother Li Minghai gave Su Yu a cold stare. Following that, he scolded Li Minghai, useless. Can't even beat an unknown junior. It is him being too sly. Li Minghai was unconvinced. Li Minghai coolly replied, sly. Although he was using the basic technique, it had reached the peak stage, with a natural flow between his leg techniques. Although you have middle-class techniques, you only trained one level, with many flaws in them. Under the same realm, what's strange about defeating you? A soldier's most valuable part is his brain, he understands this logic better than you. Upon being scolded, Li Minghai's anger immediately dissipated. He felt wronged as he said, brother, stop scolding me, I know already. Won't you help me take revenge? Glancing at Su Yu, Li Minghai shook his head and said coolly, he is too weak, not worthy of my fight. I will let Zan Lefei know, to teach him lesson if she meets him. Zan Lefei. Li Minghai was overjoyed. Zan Lefei had been trying to please his brother, hoping to gain some benefits, and this was her chance. Among the silver students, Zan Lefei was very popular, second only to Zhang Xueqing, who was one of the top 3 beauties. She was famous for her sweet and cute face, and her small but mature frame. Too bad she was very sly, walking among many powerful figures, but never letting men take advantage of her, and was the cause of lust and headache for many playboys. Zan Lefei's strong power was second only to the Silver King. If she were to meet Su Yu, it would be too easy to teach him a lesson. Su Yu, 5 consecutive wins. Successfully passed. The judge announced with a smile, the first student with 5 consecutive wins had appeared. Having defeated Li Minghai with one move, Su Yu's popularity completely soared. The students from the other teams also threw enquiring looks, wondering who this unknown power was. In a team not far away, Zhang Xueqing's eyes looked around slightly as she kept a light gaze on Su Yu. I didn't think that you would grow to such an extent. A ray of surprise flashed past Zhang Xueqing's eyes, but was immediately clouded by coolness. Too bad, you are still not enough for me, Zhang Xueqing. I, Zhang Xueqing, am fated to live an extraordinary life. You, Su Yu, will never be enough for me. Zhang Xueqing shook her head slightly and returned her gaze expressionlessly. The elimination round of the silver assessment was gradually coming to an end. Some people had been lucky enough to pass and were celebrating. There were also people who had unfortunately lost and were crying loudly. The sounds of celebrations and cries mixed together to form a complicated rhythm, playing in Su Yu's heart. This is indeed a cruel world. Su Yu sat down quietly below the arena, slowly opening his eyes. He took in the sight of the defeated students who would go back to their dorms and pack their bags, to return home all alone. If not for the 9 dragons and the incredible cauldron, he might be one of those people. Su Yu curled his fists tightly as he suddenly lamented that his power was still too weak. If he stopped improving, there would come a day where he would be defeated in another arena. Determined to train, Su Yu closed his eyes to rest. An hour later, there were only 200 people left at the venue. They were all the winners with shinier silver number plates. Su Yu had 5 consecutive wins, and his student number plate had since turned from silver gray into silver white. Next up, was another highlight of the silver assessment, the silver ranking competition. This was the portion that concerned those with a high level the most. The front part of the assessment was low level and they were not too concerned, only witnessing some signs of the silver assessment in front of their eyes. To put it harshly, to them the top 200 silver students were just slightly larger trash. Only gold students were considered to have passed. For this ranking assessment, they were still in 10 teams, each team with 20 people. This time, Su Yu knew no one on his team. However, quite a number of people in the team knew him. Su Yu, the Fierce Lord, is also on our team. He is very strong, we are rather unlucky. What is there to fret about? Even without Su Yu, it would be hard for us to get a good ranking. Didn't you see that Zhang Fan, the silver power ranked 4th, is also here? A silver student at level 2 peak sighed helplessly. Also, look at who the judge is in this arena, another silver student at level 2 peak said quietly. They turned their heads and saw that their judge was the master who had taught archery, Master Zhang. His rough face and fierce eyes made him unforgettable. Zhang Fan is the only son of Zhang Zhishi. With only one son, he usually cares and protects him a lot. Today, there is Zhang Zhishi's brother, Master Zhang, covering for him. In the arena, even if you had the skill to beat him, no one would dare to. That's right, if Zhang Zhishi seeks revenge afterwards, you are in trouble. Zhang Fan stood proudly among the crowd, a crown on his head. Although he was handsome looking, his chin was slightly tilted upwards and he usually walked this way as well, giving people the impression that he was looking at them with his nostrils. But he indeed had the rights to be this way. To be ranked silver number 4 is enough to speak for his strong power. With his martial arts at level 2 peak, middle-class skills and Zhang Zhishi's pointers at the institute, those were enough to set him far apart from Li Minghai. First round, Zhang Fan against Wei Dao. Below the stage, everyone's eyes suddenly looked nervous. The first round was already Zhang Fan. Wei Dao is still in the top 10 among the silver students. He apparently comes from a small-scale family, with middle-class skills. His power is very tough, which a year ago made him famous throughout the institute. Under the audience's gaze, Zhang Fan hopped onto the arena with his nostrils looking down on people, just like an eagle opening its wings, light and elegant. Zhang Fan's movement techniques are good. The students were envious. Movement techniques had great assisting powers, and many people wanted to learn and train in them. But it was usually extremely difficult to master excellent movement techniques. The eagle wings, which were present in the Buddhist scriptures, had been attempted by many but few had successfully mastered it. It was too difficult to understand. Even after looking at it for days, one could not find a solution. As such, most of the time was wasted and many would decide to give up. To give up on main techniques for assisting techniques was not worth it. Of course, there were movement techniques that were easier to master, but those had weak effects. Zhang Fan showed his skills and caused many to become envious. Master Zhang nodded his head slightly. This nephew of his had some fight in him, and did not let him disappoint his brother's entrustment. Following that, it was Wei Dao's turn to go on stage. He jumped on, but his movement techniques seemed clumsy. Wei Dao was 15 years old, but he was born chubby, and his strong face made him look like a mature 20-year-old. His body was strong, with the muscles in his arms, chest, abdomen and legs looking like inflated balloons that were going to explode, giving people a powerful sense of force. Su Yu clicked his tongue quietly. To enter the top 10 silver ranking, you had to be extraordinary. I heard that last week, Wei Dao challenged Fan Li, who is ranked number 5, and almost defeated him. His current powers are more than enough to enter the top 6. That's right, I have also heard that. It would not be easy for Zhang Fan to defeat him. Master Yang's thick black eyebrows frowned slightly as he said, the testing starts now. Zhang Fan nodded his chin slightly and said, I will let you have one move, go on and take action. Hearing that, the audience could not help but gasp. Isn't Zhang Fan crazy? To look down on him like that. Wei Dao was instantly humiliated and replied, Zhang Fan, stop looking down on people. Even Fan Li was almost defeated by me, how much stronger can you be? Zhang Fan stood with his arms crossed, and although his cool gaze was on Wei Dao, his eyes only took in another person who was in the same direction, Chen Tianan. He could only see the Silver King, and not the people who were weaker than him. How arrogant. The audience could not help the tremor in their minds. To have been completely overlooked, Wei Dao was furious. Lion Overlord. Wei Dao's terrifying explosive body charged towards Zhang Fan. The fierce energy shifted the airflow, blowing through the robes of the audience. So fast. The audience could not help their cry, as they felt scared for Zhang Fan. Zhang Fan seemed to have been too proud this time, and would have to suffer a loss. Whoosh. Just as Wei Dao almost crashed into him, Zhang Fan rose onto his toes and levitated, bringing him 2 meters above the ground, easily avoiding that powerful collision. A hint of disdain and ridicule showed through Zhang Fan's lips. I have already let you have a hand. The cool voice entered Wei Dao's ears. Wei Dao's face paled, and a great sense of foreboding washed over him. Eagle Claw. Zhang Fan's toes turned into hooks in the air, and as he spun during his descent, they looked like turning screws, aimed for Wei Dao's neck. Bang! The great force from his neck caused Wei Dao's muscular body to fall to his knees. Not waiting for Wei Dao's retaliation, Zhang Fan's toes spun again as they kicked Wei Dao above his temples. Ah! Wei Dao only had time to scream before he fainted from the kick. The temples were one of the most dangerous points on the human body. To suffer a kick there and faint is already considered a light injury. This Zhang Fan, he shows no mercy. Su Yu's felt a slight coldness as his heart. Zhang Fan returned to the ground, a look of disdain on his face, as he had defeated Wei Dao so easily. He glanced at Wei Dao coolly as he said, can't even take an attack. Let me tell you, Fan Li can't get past this trick under me, what use is it that you almost defeated him? Gasp. The sounds of the audience gasping came one after another. Rank number 5 Fan Li couldn't take an attack from Zhang Fan. Zhang Fan has become strong again. Last time Fan Li could narrowly take 10 tricks under him, but now not even one. Master Zhang announced with a smile, Zhang Fan wins. Following that, Zhang Fan went on the stage multiple times and without exception, defeated his opponents with one move. Of course, Su Yu was not too different, defeating his opponents with one move of continuous jade leaf kick. Half a day later. Whoa! Zhang Fan is so strong, he already has 18 consecutive wins. And Su Yu, he has taken everyone by surprise, with 18 consecutive wins as well. Without a doubt, Su Yu was the biggest dark horse in this silver assessment. Go Su Yu, I support you. Some female students who were sympathetic for his past relationship cheered him on. Many silver students who had been at the bottom levels for a long time viewed Su Yu as a learning goal, and cheered him on. Out of the 3,000 or so students who had passed the elimination round, about 400 to 500 were cheering him on. Although the sounds were sparse, Su Yu could be heard every once in a while. In the VIP audience seats, Lord Yi followed the cheers of the audience and shifted his gaze. Zhang Zhishi, the head judge, also could not help but realize Su Yu. His face instantly drooped slightly. How could it be him? If he hadn't seen him with own eyes, Zhang Zhishi would have forgotten him. Duke Qin had reminded him multiple times to chase Su Yu out of the institute and disrupt his future. Zhang Zhishi did not think about the matter, as with Su Yu's qualifications and strength, he was bound to have been eliminated, but how did he make it into the ranking round? To Zhang Zhishi, it was surreal. Was that Su Yu he was looking at, the real Su Yu? With these thoughts flashing through his mind, Zhang Zhishi had a look of seriousness. This matter was instructed by Duke Qin, how could he mess up? However, with the housemaster present, it was not acceptable for him to settle private matters, so he could only act should a chance arise. Although, realizing his son was at the venue made him more relaxed. With his son present, he knew without a doubt that he had to stop there. In the arena, Master Zhang stared at Su Yu with a hint of dislike. He had an impression of him. He was good at archery and was admired by Miss Shaw, to the extent that she gifted him her own Kirin bow. He did not expect that besides archery, his skills were also so powerful, winning 18 consecutive rounds using his perfect basic leg technique. As such, both he and Zhang Fan were one round away from achieving 19 consecutive wins, achieving the stage of complete victory. Next round, Zhang Fan vs Su Yu. Zhang Fan went onto the stage elegantly as per usual. In comparison, Su Yu appeared extremely clumsy. I'm letting you have one hand. Zhang Fan, who looked at people through his nostrils, still had no eyes for even Su Yu's shadow. Many people were feeling nervous for Su Yu, as Zhang Fan was very powerful. Just as everyone was feeling anxious, an inharmonious voice made them freeze. Hey, your nostrils are so turned up, aren't you afraid a bird will poop inside? Su Yu pursed his lips. An unknown person almost spit out his mouthful of tea. Many people below the stage covered their mouths and laughed quietly. This Su Yu, he had a really bad mouth. Zhang Fan's eyes instantly turned cold as he said, HMPH. The trash whose woman was stolen from him has the courage to laugh in my face today. Might as well. You sought your own death, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Zhang Fan rose onto his toes, displaying his movement techniques, his form like a spirit. It all happened very fast. When he was 3 meters away, he rose into the air, like a huge bird opening its wings. Next, he spun down, his feet like a bird's claw, aiming for Su Yu's head. Judging by his stance, he was not concerned whether Su Yu would be injured, his vicious technique witnessed by all. Su Yu's expression was calm. In his eyes, which were as deep as outer space, there were no signs of disturbance. They sharply searched for a weakness in his opponent's position, and his right leg lashed out like a whip. Zhang Fan's spinning left leg was blocked by the kick. Following that, his right leg pursued Su Yu like a bird's claw, and he gave a cold smile as he said, "The basic leg technique, no matter how perfect, cannot be compared to the middle-class techniques that belong to the top tier. Get lost." Zhang Fan's right leg came swinging in without obstructions. Su Yu's face had a slight look of ridicule. At the last moment, he changed his pose. Universal stroke. His fists and feet went out one after another, with smooth transitions that showed no signs of stagnation. Before his fist was done punching, his leg attacked. Once his leg stopped, another fist came. With the speed of the fists and legs, they could not be differentiated from each other. Zhang Fan's face suddenly froze. With him in the air, he had no choice but to use his feet to block. But, with nowhere to tap energy from, how could the speed of his legs be faster than the fierce and continuous attack? Bang! All of a sudden, Su Yu's leg gave a hard kick and hit his opponent squarely in the crotch. Zhang Fan's face paled as he gasped for air. After he tumbled onto the ground, he covered his crotch with his hands, cold sweat on his forehead, not daring to move. Any movement, and he would experience piercing pain. "You dare to injure me? You better watch out," Zhang Fan said furiously as his eyes gave a stare. Su Yu did not show mercy, and the universal stroke continued. A fist to his opponent's head caused him to fly out of the arena. The double encounters of extreme pain caused Zhang Fan to pass out. The audience below the stage gasped. They had already categorized Su Yu as the biggest dark horse, but no one thought that Su Yu would be so much stronger than what they had imagined. Even Zhang Fan, who was ranked 4th, was not an opponent. Instantly, this grabbed everyone's attention. With the defeat of 4th-ranked Zhang Fan, a powerful figure comparable to the top 3 in the silver ranking had appeared. Housemaster Yi, who had been watching throughout, squeezed out a smile on his cool face. Universal stroke. Looks like it had been trained to level 2 top class, reaching 4 consecutive attacks. Zhang Fan's defeat is reasonable. Head Judge Zhang Zhishi and Judge Master Zhang suddenly paled and rushed down together, to check on Zhang Fan's injury. Realizing it was just a temporary loss of consciousness, they let out a breath. Master Zhang looked back fiercely, "Su Yu. It's just a learning experience, did you have to be so ruthless?" Facing his fierce look, Su Yu said naturally, "Zhang Fan was ruthless all the time. He even dared to kick an area as dangerous as Wei Dao's temples, and Master Zhang saw this but did not stop him. I thought this was a life or death battle, so to protect myself, I was more ruthless. Zhang Fan can get away with being ruthless, but I am merely a student with no background, so I get the blame for being ruthless once. If I had known earlier I would have stood still and let Zhang Fan beat me to death." Su Yu's face was full of regret. Instantly, many obscure looks were seen, all full of dissatisfaction. Housemaster Yi, whose expression also showed slight coldness, lightly chided, "To shield your family members, you also need to look at the occasion." Head Judge Zhang Zhishi realized the bad situation and gave Master Zhang a fierce stare, "Do you have a brain? Such obvious bias, aren't you seeking trouble for yourself?" Between thoughts, he announced in a dignified manner, "It has been confirmed, Su Yu is not suspected of cheating. Su Yu wins." Oh, they were checking if Su Yu had reason to be suspected of cheating. This far-fetched reason was not believed by many, but gave the brothers a way out. Otherwise, they would not have a good ending with the angry crowd. Su Yu had a record of 19 consecutive wins, and became the first in his team. At that moment, Su Yu's student number plate was dazzling, as it had reached the stage of a silver-white color. Looking at the undefeatable dark horse Su Yu, many had different reactions. Chen Feng's fingernails pierced into her palms and she said bitterly, "In just a few days, how did he become so strong?" A large hand patted her shoulder lightly, and a rough cold voice said, "What is Zhang Fan? In front of me, he doesn't even have the courage to look at me. Su Yu defeating him is nothing much." Chen Tianan's expression was cold, his eyes indifferent, with a sense of loneliness of the undefeatable. For the Silver King, there still existed no opponent among the Silver students. In the year with rare competitors, he could only cure his loneliness through finding the Gold students. Hearing that, Chen Feng's face relaxed, her mind at ease. Zhang Xueqing was resting beside Qin Feng. With her level 3 power, she was also a dark horse, achieving first in her team. Just at that moment, she glanced at Su Yu's team, and a hint of surprise flashed through her pretty eyes. Su Yu was even stronger than she had imagined, and could even defeat Zhang Fan. She felt a sense of tightness in her chest. For some unknown reason, the stronger Su Yu became, the more uncomfortable she felt. She was very unwilling to see Su Yu become more powerful. At that moment, she heard a warm voice. "Qing if you meet Su Yu later, remember to show some mercy. You are level 3, and he is level 2. If you are too ruthless, you will injure him." Qin Feng seemed gentle, as he sighed, "After all, the two of you used to be a pair. To have to fight each other increases my sin, as it me who caused the two of you to be in today's state." Zhang Xueqing started as she came to the sudden realization. That's right. As a level 3, to have to fight a level 2, isn't that the prey coming to her hand? If she were to meet Su Yu later, she would openly defeat him without a doubt. As the uneasiness in her mind dissipated, Zhang Xueqing looked back. Her soft eyes looked at Qing Feng as she gently said, "Brother Feng, you are too kind. You don't owe Su Yu anything and you don't have to blame yourself." As she talked and looked over to Su Yu once again, Zhang Xueqing's eyes were cold and expressionless. She said, "Our relationship ended a long time ago. From now on, my body and heart only belongs to Brother Feng. As for Su Yu, I will defeat him with absolute power, to let him know that he is not worthy of me, Zhang Xueqing." Zhang Xueqing gave Su Yu a cold stare. A cold smile was hidden deep in Qin Feng's eyes. He did not care whether Su Yu lived, and only took the chance to comfort Zhang Xueqing, as he was afraid that her heart might be moved by Su Yu's rise in power. However, hearing her, "body and heart only belongs to Brother Feng," made him feel more comfortable. This Zhang Xueqing was indeed too beautiful, like a fox fairy. To be able to get her, Qin Feng felt it was partly due to luck. As the junior duke, he had seen many pretty ladies, but someone like Zhang Xueqing was extremely rare. It was a pity that although she was his girlfriend by name, they had remained proper and had no any form of physical contact before, not even touching hands. "Haha, you can handle it yourself. 1 month later, at the Gold Student competition, after I win first place, I will top it by asking my father to help us get engaged. How about that?" Qin Feng was feeling excited. Zhang Xueqing was delicate. Her body shook slightly and she bit her lips as she took a distant look at the common Su Yu. After a long while, she nodded her head lightly, "Okay." With that, "okay," it was destined that she could no longer turn back. A month from now, she would be Qin Feng's fiancée, Duke Qin's daughter-in-law and a lady under the world founder. She would lead a rich and prosperous life, above billions of people. Su Yu. Don't blame me, it is you who is useless, my beauty should not be buried by you. Sighing quietly in her mind, Zhang Xueqing closed her eyes. Qin Feng was overjoyed. 1 month later, at the golden competition, I, Qin Feng, will get first place. An unmatchable belief flooded Qin Feng's brain. Li Minghai has been watching Su Yu for a long time, with suspicion in his eyes. The similar fist and leg techniques made him think of the masked figure he had met on the Wanghan mountain. What is it? Li Minghao was collecting his things to leave with Li Minghai. With him being number 30 in the silver ranking, he could not enter the top 10 and Li Minghai's fight had ended, so he was preparing to leave. Li Minghai said hesitantly, "I think the person wanted by the Duke of Shanyu resembles him. That fist and leg technique is very similar." "Is it?" Li Minghao shook his head slightly. That is universal stroke, many people train in it. Just now, at least 10 people displayed that technique, but their power was not as strong as what you said. To be able to hit consecutively 8 times is the power of a level 3 lower tier, and can only be accomplished by a gold student. Li Minghai gave it some thought and agreed, this Suyu was just a pitiful bug who had been dumped. Although he didn't know how his power suddenly improved so much, training universal stroke to a high level would be too difficult. If I didn't have to rush back to accompany the young princess to relieve her of boredom, I would really like to see how Zan Lefei would punish him later. Li Minghai tossed a slight look at Su Yu and left unwillingly. Su Yu, who was secretly watching the two of them depart, let out a sign of relief in his mind. With Li Minghai gone, he could let loose. An hour later, the silver ranking competition came to an end. The last highlight was finally starting. Zhang Zhishi, as the head judge, stood at the huge central arena. The last challenge, the fight for the Silver King, officially starts now. The 10 winners please come on stage. Su Yu and the others filed into the arena. They all had the highest number of consecutive wins in the 20-person team. Zhang Xueqing was one of them. Silver King Chen Tianan remained seated. After the 10 people in the arena dueled, only the strongest would qualify to challenge the former Silver King. The 10 of you will draw straws to compete. In the first round, 5 people will be eliminated. Out of the remaining 5, 4 will fight and 1 will enter the semi-finals straight away, Zhang Zhishi announced. Su Yu and the rest came forward to duel according to their order. His luck was not bad, and he picked the student who had been ranked in position 6. He won this fight without a doubt. Zhang Xueqing's luck was good too, and she easily defeated the student ranked number 8. Following that, Xu Sen, ranked number 3, won. Zan Lefei, ranked number 2, won. The last person was ranked number 5, Fan Li, had better luck and met the student ranked number 9, allowing her to enter the semi-finals. There were only 5 people left. Let's start drawing straws. There is 1 empty straw, the person who draws that does not have to compete and will enter the semi-finals straight away, Zhang Zhishi announced indifferently. The 5 people drew their straws successively. Su Yu quietly looked at his straw, and was instantly shocked. His luck was too good. His straw did not have an opponent's name, which meant that he had entered the semi-finals. Out of the 4 remaining people, Zhang Xueqing looked forward steadily and did not look at him once. The other 3 threw him envious looks. It was easy for Su Yu to be happy, as he got to watch the fights from the side and observe their powers at the same time. The fight between Zhang Xueqing and Fan Li was not very exciting. With her level 3 cultivation base, Zhang Xueqing used the rolling technique and finished off Fan Li with 2 moves, entering the semi-finals. Su Yu's focus remained on Zan Lefei and Xu Sen. One was second among the silvers, and had apparently narrowly achieved success in a challenge against Chen Tianan. The other was third among the silvers, whose power was not to be looked on lightly. Both of them were at level 3 lower tier, and it was unknown how far apart their powers were. Zan Lefei went on stage laughing. Her petite body had a seductive outline, and caused many male students to secretly cast youthful passionate looks at her. Zan Lefei was like a little fairy. Haha, brother Xu Sen, you have to show mercy. Zan Lefei smiled flirtatiously. Xu Sen's face darkened. After being betrayed by Li Qian and being defeated by Li Minghao, he was feeling frustrated and ignored her, coolly saying, let us start. Swift horizontal knife. He backhandedly retrieved his knife, his expression looking more fierce, as though he could only maintain this mode when fighting. Zan Lefei hit her waist laughingly, and 2 purple bats flew out from a small colorful pocket. Different from normal bats, purple bats gave off a strong sense of demonism, and the people could feel their fierceness. Category 1 demonic beasts, purple-blooded bats. Some people who recognized the creatures were shocked. Su Yu's pupils constricted slightly. He vividly remembered the power of Category 1 demonic beasts. The fire dragon was just as hard to handle. However, by intuition, it seemed like the purple-blooded bats were far less powerful than the fire dragon. That is the young version of the Category 1 demonic beasts. Their power is merely around level 3 lower tier, look how scared you are. A more experienced older student pursed his lips. The surrounding audience came to the realization, so it is. If it were a mature Category 1 demonic beast, Zon Lefei would have become the Silver King. However, despite them being young, they are still very dangerous. Purple-blooded bats can give off ultrasounds that cannot be heard by human ears, causing people to feel faint. They will take the chance to approach and suck your blood. The poisons contained in their bodies will also enter the human body, causing poisonous paralysis and death. In the forest, purple-blooded bats usually live in groups. Once you encounter them, even a level 4 would be poisoned and paralyzed, and slowly sucked dry by a group of purple-blooded bats. Hearing that, the people who were learning about this for the first time shuddered. In the arena, Shu Sen's expression changed, and he started sweeping horizontally with the long knife in his hand, hoping to sweep away the 2 purple-blooded bats. A sweet smile played on the corners of Zon Lefei's lips as she whistled. "We." Instantly, the 2 purple-blooded bats took the chance to open their mouths and emitted silent ultrasounds. Ah! Shu Sen's body suddenly flickered as he quickly reversed, clenching his teeth and furrowing his brows, a look of pain appearing on his face. Taking this chance, Zon Lefei approached and lightly placed her small tender hands on Shu Sen's body. Shu Sen wanted to retaliate, but the 2 purple-blooded bats had fluttered over, releasing the ultrasounds at a short distance and blocking Shu Sen's body. In the end, Shu Sen suffered a hit and was hit off the arena. Zhang Zhishi nodded slightly. Zon Lefei had pressured Shu Sen, and was deserving of her second place in the silver ranking. Zon Lefei wins. As such, there were only 3 people left. Su Yu, Zhang Xueqing, and Zon Lefei. Out of the 3, only one would remain and ultimately challenge Silver King Chen Tianan. Zhang Zhishi secretly glanced at Su Yu, coolness in his eyes. He had performed brilliantly, from a common silver student who was about to be eliminated, to his state today. It was a pity that he had to stop here. Both Zhang Xueqing and Zon Lefei remained were at level 3. There was no chance for Su Yu to win. The semi-finals officially start now. First round, Su Yu vs Zhang Xueqing. There was an uproar in the audience as everyone perked up their attention. Interesting. Too interesting. A mediocre person, abandoned by Zhang Xueqing, has actually appeared in front of her to duel. Haha, I really want to know what Zhang Xueqing is thinking right now. The 2 people went on stage. Zhang Xueqing's snow-like eyes showed no change. She looked at Su Yu like he was a stranger, with coldness in her eyes. Even Su Yu entering the top silver ranking did not make her feel any sense of remorse. Su Yu, admit defeat. You are not my match, you weren't before, you aren't now, and you will never be. Zhang Xueqing's had no trace of warmth. Su Yu's expression was cool, looking at her like looking at a stranger, remaining silent. To this kind of self-absorbed, heartless woman, even one sentence would be a waste of his saliva and energy. He just silently waited for the judge's command to announce the start of the duel. He did not want to say anything more to her. Receiving silence as a reply, Zhang Xueqing took him as being stubborn and refusing to admit defeat. Shaking her head and raising her eyebrows slightly, disgust filled Zhang Xueqing's eyes as she said, "No repentance. Coming from a poor background, you should watch your attitude. Being stubborn and not admitting defeat, what does it do for you besides make you suffer? Do you know why I left you? It's precisely because you have no skills, no background, yet you protect your pitiful self-esteem, causing me to be looked down upon by other people as well." Zhang Xueqing scolded, as though she had remembered the past and was releasing all her resentment. "So, I left you. And chose my own life. Do you see, the past me was even worse than you, but the present me is far ahead. We will continue to go further and further away from each other." Zhang Xueqing's shoulders shook slightly, a look of relief on her face, as she felt she had finally taken the right path. Looking over at Su Yu again, Zhang Xueqing's pupils returned to their cold and expressionless state as she said, "You, Su Yu, are not good enough for me. You weren't good enough before, and you will not be good enough in the future. Remember my words, you will never be good enough for me. You will never be good enough for me." These words were shouted out in front of thousands of people, in front of the whole institute. The audience looked at each other, some with sympathy, some gloating, and some were disgusted. In a secret location, a lady who looked like a celestial beauty frowned slightly, her gaze sweeping over Zhang Xueqing with some dislike. Her gaze jumped to Su Yu. The celestial beauty's eyes had a hint of sympathy and warmth. So, he is called Su Yu. He is a martial arts genius with good training talent, yet he is treated this way. That Zhang Xueqing will regret this next time. Zhang Zhishi jeered silently. To fight for a woman with the junior duke would only have a tragic ending. Su Yu initially wanted to ignore her, but the more this woman talked, the more ridiculous she became. As if her throwing herself into someone else's arms was entirely Su Yu's fault. This kind of logic was just unreasonable. Stretching his back lazily, Su Yu shook his head and said, "You are already a whore, so there is no need to build a sign for it, alright. You yourself are vain, throwing yourself into another man's arms, yet you push the blame on me. Besides that, please do not feel self-absorbed. I, Su Yu, am really not interested in pretentious girls like you," Su Yu said coolly, gazing at Zhang Xueqing as if she was a stranger. The crowd went wild. Su Yu, who used to kneel before Zhang Xueqing and plead with her to change her mind. Su Yu, who once threw himself into the lake due to emotional problems. He actually called Zhang Xueqing a whore in front of the audience. Not only was the crowd shocked, Zhang Xueqing herself was stunned. In her memories, Su Yu had always coaxed her like a baby, afraid that she would break in his hand, never raising his voice. When he saw she was unhappy, he would be so scared that he wouldn't even dare to breathe heavily. When she scolded him, not only would he not dare to get angry, but he would smile along with it. She never thought that Su Yu would ever call her a whore with the whole crowd watching. For a split second, she even wondered whether the person standing in front of her was Su Yu. It felt like two completely different people. Recovering, Zhang Xueqing's pristine face was flushed. Where was her dignity in front of the whole institute? She hadn't thought about the way she scolded Su Yu like useless trash, telling him he would never be good enough for her. Why wouldn't his dignity be lost then? Chasing to the root of the issue, she only saw herself in her selfish eyes, and never cared about Su Yu's feelings. Zhang Xueqing felt countless pairs of eyes on her, and wished she could bury herself in the ground. She had never been this ashamed in her whole life. A wave of resentment, strong resentment, rose up in her. Su Yu, I hate you. Anger and hatred filled Zhang Xueqing's eyes. Hate as you wish. Su Yu shrugged lightly. Her hate could not cause a reaction in his heart. Finishing his sentence, Su Yu turned to look at the judge. I say, Zhang Zhishi, haven't you watched enough of the show? The duel was actually due to start a long time ago, but the person with the surname Zhang was happy to see Su Yu being made fun of, so he pretended to be sorting documents to delay the start time. Annoyance flashed through Zhang Zhishi's eyes, and he was just about to give a scolding, when he was met with Housemaster Yi's dissatisfied look. This duel had already been put off for a very long time. Knowing that it could not be delayed any longer, he could only swallow his anger and announce, the fight starts now. Su Yu, I will not let you off. Full of hatred, Zhang Xueqing pounced forward crazily, starting the fierce fight. Colorful flying ribbons. Zhang Xueqing took her shot in anger. Colorful flying ribbons was a medium-level technique. 3 colorful ribbons shot out from her sleeve and danced on her palms. One ribbon scraped the floor, and took a layer of it off like a knife. If it scraped a human body, it would scrape off a layer of meat. Zhang Xueqing is taking a vicious shot. Just watch, if Su Yu is not the enemy, he should know to surrender and admit defeat, he is not dumb. Zhang Xueqing was heartless. There was only one thought on her mind, which was to torture him, to use extreme torture on this damn man. Don't you dare to think you are going to leave this arena unharmed. Hearing the threatening words, Su Yu's expression remained cool. The instant the colorful ribbons attacked, both his fists and legs were prepared. Universal stroke. The opponent's 3 colorful ribbons appeared to be twisting at the same time, but Su Yu's eyesight was excellent and he could see that the twisting had a rhythm. He just had to break them one by one, and he could thwart the move. Instantly, he showed his hand. First was a punch to the first colorful ribbon, swiftly and accurately fending it off from the side. After that, with almost no gap in the flow, a leg attacked and kicked off the second ribbon which was about to attack. Immediately following that, a fist punched the last ribbon. Finally, his leg kicked out like a whip, landing precisely on Zhang Xueqing's chest. Zhang Xueqing's face paled and she instantly blocked it with both her arms as she felt the sudden wave of enormous force. What was even scarier was that her opponent's fists and legs did not stop, coming down on her continuously like intense rain, not giving her any chance to take a breath. 4 continuous hits, 8 continuous hits, 16 continuous hits. Finally, Zhang Xueqing could not bear the enormous power. After a cry, she was kicked off the arena by Su Yu. That was Su Yu's first time displaying all of Universal Stroke, and it was displayed on his ex-lover. He never showed any mercy. Standing on the arena, Su Yu looked at Zhang Xueqing, who was injured and had fallen to the ground. Her eyes showed her shock, and she said coolly, "It looks like you are not as strong as you thought. In the past, you were not as good as me, and now you are still not as good as me." Hearing his words, she didn't look at him and returned to the center of the arena, closing her eyes to take a rest. I was actually defeated. Level 3, lost to a level 2. And lost to the man that I once dumped. She felt that on her training journey, she had dumped Su Yu far, but in reality, Su Yu had dumped her. Zhang Xueqing was unable to accept the harsh reality. In her eyes, Su Yu was just a weak and cowardly man with mediocre qualifications. But today, after she had improved by leaps and bounds, just when she thought she could be the star of the day and rise to the top, her opponent shot out his hand and slapped her down from the sky. Such harsh reality was like a bucket of cold water pouring down, freezing her internally. Qin Feng rushed over, staring at Su Yu angrily. He then went to support Zhang Xueqing by the arm, but was rejected by her. Struggling to get up, Zhang Xueqing's eyes were full of hatred, and she said coldly, "Brother Feng. Help me to defeat him. You just have to defeat him, I will be yours." Zhang Xueqing's gaze was firm. She knew that Qin Feng was after her looks, and she knew even more surely that was all she had to attract Qin Feng. She did not let Qin Feng touch her easily because that was her only capital. Qin Feng was overjoyed, his heart beating loudly. For everything, he just had to defeat Su Yu. According to the Institute's rules, gold students were unable to challenge silver students, in order to protect the silver students from bullying. However, there was an exception. That was at the golden assessment a month later, the top 3 gold students could invite the top 3 silver students to duel, to showcase the difference between gold and silver and encourage silver students to improve. The silver students chosen could not reject. All right. In a month, I will easily defeat him, and achieve the honor of the Gold King at the same time. Qin Feng was elated. By their agreement, after achieving the Gold King title, Zhang Xueqing would agree to be engaged to him. After becoming the Gold King, he could get everything. Qin Feng was excited, and couldn't wait for the month to pass. No, a month is too long, I can't wait. Every day that Su Yu was around would be another day that she would not sleep well. Qin Feng's head sobered up a little, he thought for a while and said gloomily, "How about I think of a way to chase him out of the institute?" Zhang Xueqing coldly replied, "Good. Disrupt his future." Zhang Xueqing was very afraid that Su Yu will become better and better, afraid that she would be filled with regret one day. Color flashed past Housemaster Yi's pupils as he praised, "What an amazing boy. A hard skill like Universal Stroke was trained to stage 3 upper class, just a step away from entering the top class with infinite hits." Having defeated Zhang Xueqing, Su Yu's popularity instantly peaked, with cheers for him everywhere. Su Yu could actually counter-attack, defeating Zhang Xueqing, who dumped him. Su Yu has completely shed himself of his past humiliation. Shu Sen sighed, envious and dejected. The atmosphere in the audience was excited. Su Yu, the dark horse, was, indeed, incredibly powerful. He was the highlight of the day. Chen Tianan stared at the arena coldly, his expression cruel. "I never thought he could achieve this." Chen Feng clenched his fists. "No matter how strong he is, he will never match up to my brother," he said bitterly. Everyone in the crowd was excited about Su Yu's next fight. Semi-finals. The last fight, Su Yu vs Zan Lefei. Zan Lefei's power was beyond description. Shu Sen had been easily defeated at her hands. "Hey, little brother is so strong, you'll have to show big sister some mercy later." Zon Lefei was all smiles, but deep within her eyes, she held a cold edge. Before he left, Li Minghao had instructed her to viciously punish the boy. He told her to let the purple-blooded bats give him 2 bites, so he would be poisoned, only then should she begin punching. Su Yu smiled as he held up his hands. "Senior, please be sure to show some mercy. The fight starts now," Zhang Zhishi announced harshly. Zon Lefei happily tapped her colorful pocket. Out flew 2 purple-blooded bats. Su Yu was waiting. The further away you were, the less dangerous the bats' ultrasound was. In order to avoid the ultrasound attacks, the best thing to do was to stay a good distance from the bats. But the 2 bats were super fast, and Shu Sen was unable to hide from the approach of the bats, thus, he was defeated by Zon Lefei. "Go!" Zon Lefei whistled. Poosh! The 2 purple-blooded bats immediately flew towards Su Yu with blindingly fast speed. There would be no more hiding. Zon Lefei was too strong, any little mistake would end in her defeat. Cloud Shadow. Su Yu grunted deeply, he finally displayed the light body cultivation technique that he had been hiding for so long. His shadow was like the wind, his light body like the shadow of a cloud, moving around freely with ease. Su Yu was like drifting duckweed, gliding along within a glimpse. The audience only saw a blur, yet Su Yu had moved 10 feet with his incredible speed. Su Yu was more than double the speed of the purple-blooded bats. Zon Lefei hid by the side as she secretly waited for Su Yu to be poisoned. How could she have known Su Yu was hiding such a difficult technique? Zon Lefei realized the bad situation she was suddenly in and swiftly called the bats back as she spread her feet to run away. How could she get Su Yu where she wanted him? The speed of the cloud shadow technique at level 1 top class was not any slower than Zon Lefei. In the small space of the arena, both traveling at the same speed, there was not much room to run. After a while, Zon Lefei was both surprised and angry. She had to fight Su Yu face to face. Universal Stroke. In close combat, Su Yu did not hesitate to display his strongest attack technique. At that moment, the purple-blooded bats behind him surged nearer. Su Yu had to end the fight, fast. Zon Lefei also realized the situation, and retaliated desperately. She tried to hold off Su Yu and wait for the purple-blooded bats, so they could catch up to them and she could regain control. Zon Lefei was good at controlling demonic beasts, not at close combat. The universal Stokes punches and kicks were extremely fast and had no breaks. They struck her like raindrops, pelting downwards. The 16 consecutive hits felt stretched through time, yet, they only actually occurred within a single breath of space. Ah! The last kick was extraordinarily strong. Zon Lefei was hit in the chest and she fell off the arena. At that time, the purple-blooded bats slowed their flying. Having lost their owner, they stopped their attack and returned to their owner's side. Zon Lefei covered her painful chest, her cheeks red with embarrassment as she stared at Su Yu angrily. Really, dare to kick anywhere. Losing this fight was not her fault, the opponent had managed to hide such a powerful technique. If she had known about his skills, she would have never lost. But, ultimately, she had lost. She exited the venue unwillingly. As she passed through a dark channel, Qin Feng appeared brightly. Zon Lefei, complete a task, and you will get a top-grade spirit elixir. Zon Lefei's face changed color and she shouted, top-grade spirit elixir. A low-grade spirit elixir required 100 taels of silver, a middle-grade elixir required 500 taels of silver. But, the top-grade spirit elixir required 2,500 taels of silver. It would be impossible for her to get so many taels of silver, even if she spent the whole year hunting in the Twilight Mountains. Besides someone with a prominent family background like the Junior Duke, who else could afford to provide so much silver? What do you need me to do? Obviously, I'm not letting you touch me. Zon Lefei's pupils were fiery, but she did not forget Qin Feng's previous propositions. Qin Feng pursed his lips apathetically. Why would he be interested in Zon Lefei when he was about to get Zhang Xueqing? You better do this well. Qin Feng handed over a piece of paper, carefully aware of their surroundings. Written on the paper was the task required of Zon Lefei. After she had remembered it, he burned the paper, leaving no trace. This was a crucial moment for his father, and Qin Feng, as his son, could not cause any additional trouble. Zhang Lefei was surprised upon seeing the task. She hesitated for a moment, clenched her teeth and agreed, okay. But, you have to give me the spirit elixir first. Qin Feng thought about it and nodded slightly. He handed it over, grimacing. Although he was the junior duke, it did not mean he had unlimited silver to burn. His monthly allowance was only around 3,000 taels of silver. But, for today, he actually took out the top-grade spirit elixir, worth 2,500 taels of silver. The task must be completed. That said, Qin Feng blended into the darkness. With his identity and family background, he doubted Zhang Lefei would have the courage to steal the spirit elixir and run away without finishing the task. Zhang Lefei nodded her head, smiled, and replied, of course. Turning back to look in Su Yu's direction, Zhang Lefei smiled sweetly. Sorry little brother. For big sister's spirit elixir, just sacrifice yourself. In the arena, Zhang Zhishi was in disbelief. After a long time, he took a deep breath and coldly announced, semi-finals, Su Yu is the winner. In the VIP seats, Housemaster Yi's face showed a strange expression. It was rare for his indifferent face to have a trace of a happy smile. Su Yu mastered light body cultivation techniques such as Cloud Shadow, which even gold students can't successfully train, yet he is able to comprehend it. It is rather surprising. How could he have known that Su Yu could cheat with time-space manipulation? While others studied for 1 day, Su Yu studied for 10 days, for every 10 days others studied, Su Yu had studied for 100. As such, the light body cultivation technique, while difficult for others to train, was possible for Su Yu. The audience bubbled with excitement. The fight for the Silver King, the final fight, was finally about to start. Su Yu. Go for it. Defeat Chen Tianan. The students' blood boiled with excitement, especially the silver students who have been in the middle and lower reaches for a long time. Defeat him, and you'll be the next Silver King. In their mind, the Silver King was the supreme king. He was a person to be respected. It was a position they could never touch. However, Su Yu, who, like them, existed in the bottom silver level, could counterattack and fight for the crown against the dazzling Silver King. In that instant, Su Yu became the spiritual sustenance for countless low-level silver students. He represented their dreams. He had become the black horse for them to wish upon. The crowd went wild. They roared, cried, and screamed as their blood boiled from the heat of their hope. People growled crazily all around. It created an impactful sound which spread throughout the entire institute. No one could keep calm, no one could keep still, and no one could deny the state of the people around them. Everyone was affected by the fierce energy within them. The strongest black horse in history would be fighting against the strongest Silver King for the supreme crown. Zhang Zhishi squinted and shouted loudly, Silver King. Chen Tianan. Enter the arena. Chen Tianan. Enter the arena. Enter the arena. The echoing shout built upon the crowd's energy and excited their blood. The cries stirred their hearts even further. Chen Tianan, the silver crown on his head, rose up from the one and only silver throne. An air of superiority and power rose with him in a magnificent wave. Very good. The fact you got this far is enough for me to go all out on you. Chen Tianan, the strongest of all the silver, slowly walked over. Chen Feng gazed at his elder brother's back, his eyes filled with respect. Stepping into the arena, Chen Tianan took off his crown. Zhang Zhishi took back the crown, and announced, the fight for the Silver King title officially starts now. The winner will be the new Silver King. Chen Tianan stood with his arms folded and did not attack. He only stared at Su Yu coldly, and calmly said, give it a shot. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to show your hand. While it would have sounded cocky coming from someone else, the audience understood it was a legitimate statement coming from the powerful Silver King. Su Yu laughed lightly, no thanks. The champion today is the Silver King, and the tactics are open and honest. I don't need any tricks. Chen Tianan's expression was cold and his voice was hoarse and harsh. You're brave, pity you don't know your strength. How can a firefly fight for brightness against the moon? How powerful did you find Zhang Lefei? Chen Tianan asked suddenly. Su Yu pondered slightly and gave a fair appraisal, very strong. Then let me tell you, a week ago, she challenged me. She was defeated by one move. Chen Tianmen said indifferently. The crowd began to stir into a commotion. Zhang Lefei was actually defeated by one move. Whoa, the Silver King is indeed the strongest, so scary. Su Yu's eyes were serious. Chen Tianmen was the strongest opponent he had ever met. But, he would definitely not admit defeat. You've never fought me though, how do you know how this will end? Su Yu took a deep breath and shifted into a fighting stance. Chen Tianmen stood with his hands folded and calmly said, "All right, I shall," reluctantly, make the first attack. Angry King Kong Buddha. Chen Tianmen grunted lowly. His skin glowed with a light bronze color, he looked like a living copper statue. A look of surprise crossed Housemaster Yi's face. Not bad, a basic level technique like Angry King Kong Buddha has been trained to the top class by Chen Tianmen. His skin and flesh are indestructible, attacks will not easily harm him. Ghost Spirit Technique. Chen Tianmen immediately shouted again, displaying another technique. The fingernails on his two hands slowly turned a nasty and ghostly green color, an eerie gloom seeping from his fingertips. His eyes turned scarlet and his lips began to turn a grayish-green color. From a distance, Chen Tianmen seemed like a demon, ready to battle. Even one look would make your heart turn cold. Housemaster Yi's face was full of shock. Ghost Spirit Technique is a medium-level technique that is close to an advanced level technique, and he has already trained it to level 2. That's impressive. Su Yu instantly felt a cool breeze, and the thick sense of danger crashed in on him. He was especially wary of those 10 green poison claws. Su Yu was sure a brush with those would be incredibly dangerous. Whoosh! Chen Tianmen's one step was 10 feet long, and, 3 steps later, he was nearly on top of Su Yu. The eerie demon claws viciously swiped at Su Yu's chest, but Su Yu was ready. He immediately used the cloud shadow trick, and, like floating duckweed, he narrowly dodged the attack. SSSSS's. Su Yu managed to avoid the attack, but a corner of his shirt was touched by a nasty green fingernail. The thick robe made with white cloth started erupting into green pus, a hissing sound seeping from the fabric. What strong poison! Su Yu's expression wavered, but he did not panic. Instead, Su Yu took advantage of the moments between one attack and the next. Universal stroke. Su Yu saw his opportunity and grabbed it, swiftly attacking. His fists and legs attacked fluidly, one limb following the other seamlessly. Once a punch was done, a kick came. The attack was extremely powerful and relentless. Chen Tianmen had no choice but to use his arms to guard his chest against the onslaught. Clank. Strangely, however, each time Su Yu's fists and feet made contact with Chen Tianmen it felt as though he were attacking solid steel. Chen Tianmen was knocked back half a step with each hit. After 16 consecutive hits he had merely moved back 8 steps and was unharmed. The defense of the angry King Kong Buddha was amazing. It's no use, how can a firefly fight for brightness against the moon? With a cold smile, Chen Tianmen took advantage of the moment Su Yu's attack ended, aiming another attack toward Su Yu's chest. SSSS's. Su Yu dodged, but the front part of his shirt melted. One attack had been ineffective. Su Yu's face was serious, but his eyes shined bright. During his attack, after Su Yu realized Chen Tianmen's skin was impenetrable, Su Yu immediately began searching for other weaknesses in Chen Tianmen's defense. Though he only had a moment to analyze Chen Tianmen during his attack, Su Yu still managed to find something strange. When Chen Tianmen used the Ghost Spirit Technique, Angry King Kong Buddha paused for a moment and a palm-sized circle of muscle on his chest returned to its normal skin color. To use both techniques simultaneously would require extreme coordination, which Chen Tianmen had apparently not yet mastered. Unfortunately, the small break in Chen Tianmen's defenses was short and rare. It only appeared when Chen Tianmen attacked, making it too dangerous to counter directly. While thinking, Su Yu dodged continuously and continued to counterattack. Chen Tianmen and Su Yu danced through time, weaving around each other as they crisscrossed across the arena. They were shadows, fluttering in and out of view. 1 move, 2 moves. 3 moves, 4 moves. Even after 16 moves, they were still evenly matched. Although Chen Tianmen was powerful, Su Yu's techniques were not bad. neither opponent had yet obviously pulled ahead in the fight. Of course, Chen Tianan firmly held the advantage. A cold smile played beneath Chen Tianan's eyes. Su Yu could defeat Zhang Lefei, and he was indeed strong for lasting so long against Chen Tianan, but his defeat was inevitable. Head judge Zhang Zhishi was secretly pleased with Su Yu's struggle, but his expression was fair as he said, "Su Yu, if you only dodge and refuse to fight all 10 rounds, Chen Tianan will be declared the winner." Oh, the audience felt that was unfair. Su Yu had not been defeated, he just had the lower hand. Such a rule was obviously made in order to put more pressure on Su Yu. Frowning, Su Yu gave Zhang Zhishi a cold look. He had defeated his son, Zhang Fan, so he bore a grudge and was biased against Su Yu. As such, Su Yu was forced to use his special tactic. Su Yu stopped his sequence of dodging and retreating and faced his opponent face to face. Finally stopped hiding. Ghost Spirit Technique, Chen Tianan declared viciously. The nasty green nails left a string of broken lines in the air. Su Yu's eyes suddenly changed to a murky crystalline shade. Time and space slowed, Chen Tianan's every action was slowed down by 300%. The weak spot in Chen Tianan's chest became obvious and distinct in the drawn-out time. Universal stroke, Su Yu grunted. In other people's eyes, Su Yu's speed was suddenly 3 times faster than usual. Whoosh! 16 consecutive hits were finished in a breath's time. Bang, bang, bang. Chen Tianan spat out a mouthful of blood as he flew backward. What is going on? How did his opponent's speed suddenly rise to level 4 lower tier? Housemaster Yi was shocked. Chen Tianan was in disbelief. How could it be? But, the state of his displaced body confirmed the seemingly impossible attack which Su Yu had just pulled off. He was about to lose. A hint of viciousness flashed through Chen Tianan's cold eyes. Even if I do lose, don't you dare expect an easy victory. Whoosh! A ray of black lights emitted from Chen Tianan's eyes. It was extremely fast, the audience only saw a blur before the black light enveloped Su Yu's body. Su Yu's whole body vibrated. It felt as though an unknown creature had barged into his brain and was wreaking havoc. Su Yu immediately understood what was happening. It was the legendary technique of the soul. The soul was one of man's weakest points. Attacking the soul could cause anything from minor illness to death. Housemaster Yi's face paled. Oh no, it's demonic eyes. With Su Yu's skills, his mind could be permanently damaged. He could end up demented. The more he wanted to help, the further away he felt. An unexpected pain suddenly pierced Su Yu's brain and his vulnerable soul trembled uneasily. The vicious corrosive air was rapidly destroying his brain. Sensing danger closing in, the 9 dragons and the 9-dragon cauldron entrenched within Su Yu's brain vibrated, and a stream of spirit serum spilled out from the small cauldron. The pain in his brain rapidly diminished, and the unknown substance that had seeped into his head was killed by the wind and clouds. To outsiders, Su Yu's body recovered after a mere shake. Only he truly knew the danger he had just faced. With a cold look, Su Yu activated the cloud shadow trick and, with one step forward, he caught up to Chen Tianan, who had flown backward. Su Yu condensed all his power into his fist and punched it hard into Chen Tianan's head. How is it possible that you are unharmed? Ah! Chen Tianan's face took the hit full on. His lips were smashed. Fresh blood was spewing from his mouth and a few of his teeth scattered onto the ground. Su Yu did not stop. He gave a kick toward Chen Tianan's waist. Crack! It sounded like bones breaking. Filled with anger, Su Yu's fists and legs were attacked consecutively with no breaks in between. He only stopped once he'd hit Chen Tianan in midair all the way to below the arena. Wah! Falling heavily below the arena, Chen Tianan spat out a mouthful of blood before the immense pain throughout his whole body caused him to pass out. The crowd stared intently as they sucked in a breath of cool air. Not only did Chen Tianan have multiple broken bones, but his face was also badly beaten. He looked miserable and practically unrecognizable in his heavily injured state. Only once Chen Tianan landed upon the ground did the anger in Su Yu's eyes start to diminish. If it were not for the 9-dragon cauldron, Su Yu would have become demented. Chen Tianan was so vicious, how could he show mercy when Chen Tianan had refused to do the same? Zhang Zhishi's eyes were cloudy and uncertain. The student, whom the Duke wanted, dealt with, had become the Silver King. From that day onwards, everything would be different. No, I cannot let him become the Silver King. Zhang Zhishi thought. How brave. Zhang Zhishi gave a cold look and stood up. He leapt onto the arena with one jump. Fueled by anger, he grabbed Su Yu. It is just a comparison test, yet you were so vicious. Stay and kneel. The intense anger suppressed Su Yu, making it difficult for him to retaliate. Zhang Zhishi was a powerful character at level 4 peak, how could Su Yu withstand him? This senior was publicly taking out revenge against Su Yu. Su Yu was a changed person, even though he was not facing the true enemy, he would not submit. Universal stroke. Su Yu would not be suppressed, and so he retaliated. 2 hits, 4 hits, 8 hits, 16 hits, all consecutive hits. You dare to retaliate. The seriousness of your crime only increases with your actions. Zhang Zhishi's face was icy as he easily withstood the retaliation. Even after 16 consecutive hits, his body remained unmoved. A powerful palm smacked Su Yu's skull. How was this only a capture? Zhang Zhishi was obviously taking advantage of the chance to seriously injure him. It seemed like Su Yu was going to suffer a hit. Whoosh! Suddenly, a wisp of sharp air shot from the VIP seats within the audience. Puff! Zhang Zhishi was struck by the stream of air. Even though he was at level 4 peak, he could not withstand that one hit. Zhang Zhishi flew several feet, his mouth opened and blood spewed outwards, a bloody hole ripped open on the side of his waist, where he had been struck. What an embarrassment. A cold voice came from the VIP audience seats. Housemaster Yi's long white robe fluttered around him, his black hair flowing, his cold eyes filled with indifference. The students could not tell that Chen Tianan had used such a dangerous trick like the secret technique of the soul. Could it be that Zhang Zhishi had not realized either? It was one thing for Jian Zhishi to stand and watch without blocking, but afterward, he did not investigate Chen Tianan, and instead only jumped at the chance to hit Su Yu. It was an utter embarrassment. Zhang Zhishi was in pain. His mouth was full of blood and his heart was filled with hatred and fear. However, he did not defend himself. He could not air his grievances publicly, as causing a scene in front of such a large audience would deeply injure his reputation. As such, he only clenched his jaw and gave Su Yu a silent glare before swiftly leaving as fast as his injured body would allow. Many students thought it was ridiculous. Su Yu had seriously injured Chen Tianan in a cruel manner, and Zhang Zhishi captured Su Yu out of his duty as the judge, so why was Zhang Zhishi injured and punished? Housemaster Yi would not explain the matter. If he announced Zhang Zhishi's cowardly actions, it would be a black mark on the institute's reputation. In the fight for the Silver King title, Su Yu is the champion. Housemaster Yi walked onto the stage and personally placed the silver crown on Su Yu's head. Your performance was not bad, continue to work hard. You should aim to join the gold students in a month's time. With a slight smile, Housemaster Yi patted Su Yu's shoulders before he turned to leave. Su Yu's heart was filled with respect. He put his hands together and said, "Thank you, Housemaster." If not for the justice Housemaster Yi had established, Su Yu might not have left the arena in one piece. Su Yu became famous after that fight. The title of Silver King had changed hands from Chen Tianan to Su Yu. At the moment he was crowned, Su Yu's student number plate shined a bright silver color with just a hint of gold. Soon, it would become a gold number plate. Hidden away, the celestial beauty gazed at Su Yu from a distance. She gave a tranquil smile. A boy with handsome features and a lanky body stood beside her, handsome enough to make any woman swoon. At the corners of his peach-tinted eyes, however, brewed a glint of darkness. The handsome youth gave an absurd laugh. "Senior Shah, I did not expect you to be interested in a fight between the silvers," he said. His words implied that the silver assessment was very boring. Why would anyone wish to watch it? This impossibly beautiful youth was actually the Gold King, the strongest among the gold students, Fang Qingzhou. His qualifications were amazing, with skills at the level 4 top tier. Even among the gold students, there was no equal to Fang Qingzhou's skill. Not a single person had survived beyond 3 of Fang Qingzhou's attacks. He was undefeatable. He was also a popular bachelor, who was revered by many female students. There were negative rumors regarding Feng Qingzhou, however, which colored him as an unscrupulous playboy who had left many nice girls in extreme emotional distress. Some girls had faced harm as a result of their emotional state. When the girls were hurt by Feng Qingzhou's actions, however, he was never directly punished. The institute settled privately with the family of the victim. The celestial beauty was rather disgusted with Feng Qingzhou, and merely replied, "I just want to see if there are any rising stars." Feng Qingzhou made no attempts to hide his contempt. "No matter how strong a silver is, he is still trash that needs disposing of," he said mockingly. Although his words were harsh, they were true. The silver students were all unqualified. To call them trash was neither uncommon nor uncalled for within the institute. The celestial beauty frowned. "That may not be true. I am optimistic about the new Silver King. He improved very quickly." Once she finished her sentence, the celestial beauty turned to leave. Did she mean Su Yu? Feng Qingzhou glanced at Su Yu's back and frowned, shaking his head as he scoffed. "That's it, he's peaked. He will be in the lower levels for the rest of his life." As he muttered, he hurried and caught up with the celestial beauty. He watched her graceful shadow with a wicked look.